All right, here we go, boys. So I have been on the fantasy webs and TikToks and all this stuff, and I saw this recommendation saying that one of the best ideas they ever had in their league was doing a podcast, very league specific, just for people, internal of the league. I'm going to spearhead that. I'll be having some guests throughout the season. Um, but basically, I just wanted to start this by saying welcome to the Buzzcut League 2024 podcast. We did not have an episode for deciding draft order or any of the rules. I think that is a good idea in the future, but for now, we are just going to get started with the draft results as we did have our draft last night, and we are officially 1 week away from the start of the fantasy regular season. So in this, I'll be going through everybody's draft picks more so than their actual teams, evaluating how I think they did there, who else was available, and then at the end, we'll give each team kind of a grade. Um, this will be different compared to next week. Next week, we'll be doing our week one primer and a rivalry week primer, which is great to see, where I'll be breaking down each team's individual players a bit more and their matchups. Whereas this one is more so just looking at the draft board. I will probably be uploading this to YouTube. I'll see if I can export the audio and upload it to Dropbox or send it as a text in our group chat, although it may be long. So if you have any ideas for this, you want to hop on, join me, please let me know. I just thought this would be a little something to make everyone's day a little brighter. You can absorb some fantasy content from the perspective of our league, and get to hear my sweet, wonderful voice at least once a week. So I'm very excited for this year. Last night may not have panned out quite how I had hoped, but let's get started. So we are in a half PPR league. We play one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, one defense, one kicker, and three flexes, and I think 6 bench spots. So 10-team league. We do have a pretty stacked rosters in terms of 10-team leagues. We're not going to be as poor as some of those 12 or 14 mans. Bobby had the highest bowling score, so he starts off at first. Ethan was second, so he starts out in second. I was third, so I took the third pick. Brennan was fourth. He actually took the 10 pick. And then I'm not really sure from there. I think Strat outscored Blaine. And it went from there. But Jordy also did decent. I'm not too sure. I just know Jeffrey was last. So first round, we've been seeing the sleeper ADP show a lot of wide receivers in the first round. Normally, we will see around 7 wide receivers and 3 running backs in the first round, which we saw here. I think nobody was really surprised to see that. Bobby going with McCaffrey 1 overall was pretty expected, and as was Ethan with Tyreek. 2 locked-in starters should be in the top 5 of their position every single week. No reason for them to deny you any thought that they will be one of the best in their position. I actually pivoted from what consensus would think would be CeeDee Lamb at third. I know he did sign his contract 2 days ago at this point, but I kind of the whole offseason was very in on Breece Hall, very in on the offense. His efficiency, he didn't get many red zone touches last year, so there's an increase in that. And also, the concerns with CeeDee Lamb and Jamar kind of worried me with their contract situations and them having not participated in training camp. So we decided to go Breece there. Strat went with CeeDee, having him fall to 4, fall in quotes. And then Blaine went Jamar at 5 after getting bullied by Brennan. He told me and Brennan that he was taking Jamar Chase, and then he told us an hour before the draft, or maybe not even, that he was pivoting. So we knew he was going to take Amon-Ra because Lee has been just spewing all that propaganda in his ears. And as soon as Brennan called him out on draft day saying that he's been listening to the Lee propaganda, he immediately switched to Jamar Chase. I probably should have taken the $100 from him and taken it myself. But, we're all in on Breece this year. Dylan went with Bijan as a third running back taken at round 1, pick 6 overall. Great pick. Should be a budding new offense. He'll get a bunch of touches, and they keep saying they'll want to use him in that McCaffrey role. We've heard that about Antonio Gibson and James Cook and all these other people, so we'll see how that actually plays out. But all in all, a great pick. Justin Jefferson slides to 7, bit of a quarterback issue, but as one of the quarterback-proof players in the NFL, taking him later in the first round is not a problem. Jordy gets arguably the best first-round pick, I think, in terms of floor and consistency with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's almost guaranteed to be a top 5 receiver. Every week, he's going to be a top 10, 15 receiver. He rarely has dud weeks. And that'll just manage to keep his roster afloat with a very safe pick in the first round. Jeffrey went with A.J. Brown. He always has a fucking hard on for A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I am still having nightmares of fucking A.J. Brown dropping 3 touchdowns on my dome, going over to his house for red zone. So hopefully that doesn't happen again this year. All in all, I think reasonably priced pick. A.J. Brown was going around there. I think he's probably the consensus 6 wide receiver, so no problem there. We get to Brennan at the turn. He has 2 choices. We all knew Garrett Wilson was going to be selected. Surprise, surprise. So we go there. Loves Aaron Rodgers, loves the Jets. Shocker to no one. And then we have Kyren Williams, which you could argue a couple of these running backs that went immediately after him, Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, even maybe Gibbs, could have gone above him. I personally like the decision from Brennan. He was getting a little sketched out due to the news that Kyren would be returning kicks. But I think it's a great pick there. And assuming he doesn't get hurt, he'll have one of the best picks of the draft. And even if he does get hurt, he does have Blake Corum in the later rounds, as we'll see later. Jeffrey paired A.J. Brown with Jonathan Taylor, solidifying his 2 main positions, not going for any of that flex depth, but getting his guys at wide receiver and running back that he knows he can start every single week. Jordy and William doing the same, grabbing running backs in the second round, following their receivers in the first round. Jordy with Saquon, William with Travis Etienne. I think these are both great picks. Maybe perhaps a bit of a value on Saquon Barkley going as the 6th running back, but time will tell. We'll see how Jalen Hurts vultures those touchdowns. And Travis Etienne, great volume play, should be on a pretty good offense. Their defense, I've heard conflicting reports, but they're going to need to put up points if they want to compete for the division. So great volume play, and Tank Bigsby is ass, so not getting any of his work taken there. Dylan went with Puka in the middle of the second round. I actually was debating taking Puka if he fell a little bit. I don't think he's the best value there. I think the value is more to be had with Cooper Kupp later in the draft, but still a great pick. Blaine went with Gibbs. So Blaine starting his first 2 rounds with 2 people that are actively not participating in training camp. Not a great idea, even after Jamar said it wasn't going to cause an issue. Still yesterday, he was not at practice. And Gibbs dealing with that injury, although did participate in training camp at some point before that injury. We'll see if it pans out for him. I do think those are 2 great players to have to build your team around, but might start slow due to those circumstances. Strat stole Derrick Henry from me. I was really hoping Gibbs or Henry would get to me. But Strat went with that touchdown upside to accompany his CeeDee Lamb touchdown upside. Those 2 players could certainly carry Strat to a respectable season, which we know is normally not the case for him. I went with Devon Achane. I think he is a very versatile pick. I think he has potential to be a top 3 running back, but he also has potential to fall out of the top 15 or 20 if the touchdowns don't fall his way. Very much a risky pick. I think this year I kind of went with the mentality that, I don't give a fuck if I lose. I'm going for the win. Whereas in the past, I've been more safe and said, you know what, let's just try and get to the playoffs and we'll figure it out from there. That normally hasn't worked for me too well. So we're shooting for the stars this year, going running back off the bat as the only one thus far into the draft to do so. Ethan went with Isaiah Pacheco at the 209 to accompany his Tyreek Hill pick. So literally everybody except for me and Bobby started with either receiver running back or running back receiver, whereas Bobby and I both started running back. Getting to Bobby's running back, he does take Josh Jacobs off the back of the A.J. Dillon injury. I think this is a pretty safe pick. He's going to get a ton of volume. If he can stay healthy, he should be locked and loaded for a high floor, but Maybe a bit too high to take him, as it looks like the 12th running back. We'll see if his ceiling's that high. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. Matt LaFleur normally likes to use 2 running backs, so we'll see if Emmanuel, what's his face, steps in. Emmanuel Wilson steps in and gets some touches until A.J. Dillon's back from his injury. But yes, not bad. Travis Kelce, first tight end off the board, the only tight end taken in the first 3 rounds. I think a bit of a reach. What's even more shocking is that he didn't pair him with Patrick Mahomes at his next turn, which I found a bit shocking. But all in all, he wanted to secure a leader at one of those positions where you only need one, being quarterback and tight end. So he does take Travis Kelce, and then Ethan does the same with Josh Allen, locking in his guy. There were murmurs of him taking Mahomes. He lied to Bobby and I, saying that he was going to take Mahomes. But we all know Ethan is a Josh Allen dick rider, and Josh Allen has finished as a top 2 quarterback all of the last 4 years. So this makes reasonable sense. I think everyone would have put their money on Ethan betting on Josh Allen being on Ethan's team at some point during the draft. I took Marvin Harrison in the 3rd round, as he did slide quite a bit. I don't think it's a terrible pick. I think, he is going the highest a rookie has ever gone in a fantasy draft, which speaks a lot to his talent and how he performed in college. Actually, we do see that Malik Neighbors is going the highest of any rookie receiver in fantasy ever this year, and is beat out only by his draft class compatriot with Marvin Harrison. So both of these guys going way higher than rookies have ever gone. Although I still did take a pretty high pick on him, I do think I got decent value. It's looking like he is at wide receiver 8 or 9 right now, which is perhaps a bit high, but I do get probably a 5 or 6 pick value on him in the 3rd round. And I will pair him with the Kyler Murray stack in the 9th round, as you see, so not bad. Strat goes with Devontae. We'll see how his volume is. He normally is just peppered with targets, but this Raiders team might not be great and will want to run the ball with Zamir White, and they do have Gardner Minshew at the helm, which I think is much better than AOC and better than some of these other crappy quarterbacks, but we'll see how Devontae Adams' target share goes alongside with that. Blaine took Drake London. Shocking that Blaine took a Falcon in the 3rd round. The value is there, and if Kirk can be good, then Drake can be good. I think no one's arguing that. It's just, where is that upside really? Is he top 5, top 10 player, or is he kind of locked in that middle 10 to 20 range where I think everybody kind of has him at now? We'll see. Olave taken by Dylan. I don't love it. Personally, I think Puka and Olave both have the chance for some regression after last year. We'll see how Kubiak does in the Saints offense, but Olave did not score more than 20 points in a single game last year, so he's more of that high floor play. Can give you a consistent starter, is always going to be there when you need him, but is he going to provide this week winning upside? That I'm not really sure of. William goes with Debo, getting his 2nd wide receiver. I think this is a good pick. We will see how this works along with the Ayuk stuff that pans out. And with the Trent Williams stuff, Trent Williams is also still not playing, and Brock Purdy has some pretty scary splits without Trent Williams. So that could hurt Deebo Samuel in the short term if they're not willing to negotiate a contract with Trent Williams, and if Ayuk is not offloaded and does play for this team. Jordy gets Mike Evans, nearing towards the end of the 3rd. I think this is a great pick. Mike Evans is always fucking top 20. He gets to spend around a 15, 20 wide receiver price to get his guy that he knows is going to put up numbers. Week to week, maybe a bit inconsistent, but this guy at the end of the year is going to have his 1,000 yards and his 7 touchdowns. So not a bad pick there. And even there's potential for 10, 11, 12 touchdowns. So he could definitely slide into that higher wide receiver 2, lower wide receiver 1 territory. Jeffrey goes with Nico Collins. There are 3 Texans wide receivers being taken, in the first 6, 7 rounds. I do think Nico is the most primed to be the number 1 target on the team and has the highest floor. So I don't have a problem with him going here, maybe a bit high, but I think given the wide receivers that go around him, and I think Jeffrey was maybe trying to get DK at the turn, which Brennan sniped. I don't think this is a terrible pick. Brennan goes with DJ Moore and DK to get his team started with 3 core wide receivers, and that Kyron Williams is going to start that running back spot every year. I do like both of these picks. We'll see how Caleb Williams does. I do think a third rounder on DJ Moore is maybe a little rich, given that he does have a rookie quarterback. He does have Keenan Allen, a very experienced wide receiver who is normally good in those short yard situations when he's on the field, and then also a rookie in Rome Odunze. So we'll see how that all pans out. I do think DJ Moore is the wide receiver to have out of the 3 of those, but we'll see if he gets hyper focused or if it's split more evenly and they all end up closer to each other. And then DK Metcalf in this new Shane Waldron offense should be good. Coming over from Washington, where he did have Rome Odunze and utilized those 3 receivers very frequently. If DK is the main beneficiary of that, he will be a great pick this year. And like Mike Evans, he is consistently a top 20 receiver in our format. I think to get him here is basically assuring yourself a weekly starter. His upside may be a bit capped, but other than that, I still think it's a great pick. Jeffrey goes with Hurts for the stack with A.J. Brown, getting a great stack to have, and also just his fucking butt buddies that he loves and always takes. Ends up getting a top 3 receiver or top 3 quarterback to accompany A.J. Brown in the 4th round. I don't think this is a bad pick at all. Jordy goes with Rachaad White, which is a little puzzling. I think where Rachaad White is going is probably fair to take him there. I would maybe take him a bit later in the 4th. But it's weird that he went with this Rachaad White and Mike Evans stack. The Buccaneers had the easiest strength of schedule last year. They do play a first place schedule this year after winning the division last year. He will have 2 games against the Panthers and the Saints, and so I definitely don't hate it, but stacking $2 in the 3rd and 4th round is a little puzzling. Kind of limits your upside on a week-to-week basis, so we'll see how that goes. William with Waddle, going for a second receiver on his team. Not a terrible pick. He should get good volume. People will focus on Tyreek, and this will be one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Waddle's one of the best ever historically after their first 3 seasons in terms of receptions, so he will have that high floor with the receptions total. All in all, a great pick in the 4th round, and I think really rounds out his wide receiver room for the moment going into the 5th. Dylan takes Laporta in the 4th as the second tight end. I think this is honestly a real value on Laporta. We'll see if he can replicate or expand on what he did his rookie year. But honestly, not a bad pick. Gives him depth at that tight end, or gives him a nice starter at that tight end position, where I'm sure people will come crawling to him for trades later. Blaine takes Cooper Kupp, who I think is a great value in this spot. Could lead the Rams in targets and touchdowns in terms of receiving threats. So I think this is not a bad idea. If Matt Stafford and him can stay healthy, and they are getting a little bit over the hill, so there may be some regression, but I still think he is primed for a big year. He's only 2 years off his Triple Crown season. I know he does have an injury in there as well, but he should be able to produce numbers for a wide receiver too, which is around where he's going. Strat goes with McBride after his strong performance at the end of last year. We all knew this was coming. Strat's a fucking McBride dick rider. If you didn't see this coming from a mile away, it's probably because you wanted Trey McBride. All in all, 3rd tight end off the board, gets him in the 4th round. Should be one of Kyler's main, blanket targets. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is not open, it's going to Trey McBride. And if Trey McBride's not open, it's going to Marvin Harrison Jr. And if not, it's being dumped off to James Conner. So not a terrible pick there. Solidifies his tight end. Doesn't have to worry about it later, although he kind of does worry about it later, as we'll get to. I go with Ayuk. Dude, still not practicing. Still not traded. Did not accept a contract offer from the Steelers. Might go to the Commanders. We'll see. The Commanders just offloaded Jahan Dotson and acquired some picks maybe to get some value for Ayuk. I did see this morning after drafting Ayuk that the Browns did clear up a bunch of cap space. I think like they have $38 million available by paying a signing bonus or just some kind of lump sum payment to Deshaun Watson. So they may be pushing for him this week. We'll see how that goes. I personally would prefer him to go to the Commanders or stay on the Niners. But honestly, I'll take whatever gets him playing at this point. Ethan goes with Neighbors. Not a terrible pick. As I said, going as the second highest rookie ever in fantasy football behind Marvin Harrison Jr. So definitely the potential to not return on his investment, but we all saw him in college. Everybody's rooting for him. It's as far as we're concerned, it's all up to Daniel Jones at this point. It's not a question on Malik Neighbors' talent. It's can they get him the ball and can their offense be productive enough to sustain him? Bobby goes with Diggs and Pittman at the turn, getting his two wide receivers, one to fill out his wide receiver spot and one his flex. Honestly, I kind of fucking hate both these picks. I think Diggs will demand targets, but I don't think he's going to be the red zone guy. And there's a lot of mouths to feed there. And I think Michael Pittman, we'll see how Anthony Richardson is, but I think his touchdown upside is not really the highest. There's a young rookie and a young second year player in his offense that could also step up with Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs. And I just think that Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor are going to get a bulk of the work there. But he should be fine for another 1,000-yard season. It's just whether he can get, I think he's historically had 4 touchdowns in his previous seasons. Last year, he had a really good year. I think, only 4 last year. Year before, only had 3. And the year before that, he had 5, 6. So if he can get those touchdowns up, he'll be good, but don't love the play there. Ethan goes with Devonta Smith. We'll see how it works in the Kellen Moore offense, but I do think he's primed for a better year than last year and do truly believe in the talent. I took James Cook at running back, getting a third running back to go with my 2 wide receivers. I like the floor on James Cook, and I think he had a real problem scoring touchdowns last year. I think he only had 2 rushing touchdowns. If he can bump that number up to even 6 rushing touchdowns to go along with his he had 2 receiving touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. So 6 total touchdowns. If he can get that up to 10 total touchdowns, I think this is a home run pick. His floor is there with the catching and the rushing volume. It's just how high can his ceiling go with the touchdowns and how much will he be vultured by Josh Allen. Strat went with Mahomes, getting a tight end and a quarterback in the first 5 rounds. Him, Dylan, and Jeffrey all went with this strat. I normally do not love spending 2 early round picks on tight ends and quarterbacks, as it does ruin some of your depth and will hurt you towards the middle of the year when players are getting injured and on buys. But they won't have to go hunting for tight ends off the waiver wire or pivot from their quarterbacks, assuming all these guys perform. Blaine went with Kenneth Walker, a nice RB2 to round out his starting 5. Dylan with Lamar to go with his Laporta, Olave, Puka, and Bijan. As I said, filling out the quarterback and tight end spot. We do have William going with Joe Mixon. Should be a great volume play, as there shouldn't be a ton of running backs competing for touches there, although the offense should be pretty pass heavy. Joe Mixon, not the most efficient player, but he should get some touchdowns and get plenty of volume to go with it. Kamara goes to Jordy. This is literally just Rachaad White, but plays on the Saints. He's going to get a fuck ton of catches. He's going to get 6 or 7 touchdowns, and he's going to run the ball very mid because his offense is not great. Great floor on both of these players on these picks by Jordy. Perhaps going for upside later with some of his picks, as you'll see. But I think these are good foundational pieces that he can start every week. Just might not give him the upside he wants. Jeffrey went with Mandrews, solidifying that quarterback and tight end, as I mentioned. And then Brennan here getting Pickens and Montgomery. I think the Montgomery pick is great. Pickens, we will see with the quarterback situation. I just think Russell Wilson is a little bit over the hill. And I think if he does start the year bad, switching quarterbacks to Justin Fields could be good for him, but it also could be worse for him, depending on how he starts the year. So not a great pick, but it is very high upside and could be one of those league winners. And then I do see David Montgomery as a great option as well. Gibbs is currently hurt. David Montgomery should get plenty of touches in one of the best offenses in the league. So I do not hate this. So yeah, there was basically the first 5 rounds of our draft. I think this sets a good standard just for the podcast to go for the rest of the year. Really wanted to dive in deeper on these first 5 picks, as I think these are kind of the ones that Might not determine if you win the league, but can determine if you lose the league. I think these high upside players that are coming later in the draft are really where you get those league winners, making those additions during the season, whether it be backup running backs, of people that get injured, or like the Puka Nakuas of last year. Finding those guys are really what can solidify you into title contenders. Um, and we'll find that out during the year. But to start from the draft, I think this is certainly where you could lose your league. Um, I'll start with Bobby's team, just giving him an overall out of 10. I was going to do school gradings, but um, I think out of 10 gives a little more accuracy. And this is a true out of 10 scale. So 1 will be dog shit, 5 will be mid, and 10 will be great. I'm not giving 7s for mid like most people do. That just doesn't make sense to me, because then basically anything under 4 is dog shit. So true 10 rating scale. Bobby is going to be starting McCaffrey every single week, Jacobs every single week, Kelsey every single week, Diggs every single week. And I think those are his 4 locked in positional players. Burrow will be playing every week. He will have to decide. I think Pittman and Swift will start probably week 1, but Pollard does have some potential to take over his backfield. We'll see if their offense can move the ball and get him those real valuable touches near the goal line, but probably will not be starting week 1. Brian Thomas, huge touchdown upside. Calvin Ridley had 25 targets within the 20 in the red zone last year. I think Brian Thomas is going to replace most of those. Evan Ingram will probably get a couple, and Kirk might get 1 or 2. But I think that's what he came in to do. That's what he did in college. He was averaging a touchdown every 4.5 catches in college. So real touchdown upside here. Probably won't be a weekly starter, but can fill in and get you a touchdown any given week. I think it's maybe a bit of a reach in the ninth, but still a great pick. We do have Eckler. We'll see how him and Brian Robinson split time in that offense, and with Jaden Daniels taking some rushing away from him. Curtis Samuel, I think a good floor play for this late in the draft. I think he will get some catches. I do think that Kincaid and Khalil Shakir will be competing for those short range targets, and Keon Coleman will probably be the long range. We did see that with Joe Brady, this offense likes to keep things a bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and not let Josh Allen throw 20 picks like he has been doing. So Curtis Samuel, the upside, I think, is very limited with the offense, but with Josh Allen, you never know. Gus Edwards, Chargers backfield is craziness. Him, you got Dobbins, you got Audric Estime or whatever. Definitely the most established running back in this offense, but he is kind of an efficiency play. He gets 4 or 5 yards on every carry. Not a big play guy. And he will have a role in this offense, but I don't know if he can be a regular starter. Jacoby Myers, people were saying he was better than Devontae last year. Devontae was having some bad weeks, and Jacoby Myers had some pop-off weeks, so I get it. But I don't love the pick given this Raiders offense. Overall, I think Bobby's team is very top-heavy. I think he will be starting the wrong players in his flexes a lot of weeks, as I think Pollard and Brian Thomas do have potential to outscore Swift and Pittman on most weeks. And then, Gus Edwards will occasionally fall in the end zone and make himself a reasonable starter that might outperform a Pittman or a Diggs should they have a bad week. All in all, I'll give Bobby's team, since it is so top heavy, I do like Joe Burrow. I think he probably should have gone with Mahomes instead of Pittman in the 5th. I think that would have boosted his team up a good bit. So let's go 6.5 on Bobby. Next is Ethan. Ethan started with Tyreek and Pacheco. I think a bit of a reach for Pacheco, but with the running backs that were going in the second round, he probably had to pull the trigger. And then Josh Allen in the 3rd, solidifying his number 1 running back. Ethan always builds his team around his 2 great positional players and his quarterback. It's been okay for him so far. I think this year he does have a good team, and Allen and Hill will carry him a good bit of the way if Allen can figure out his receiver situation. Neighbors and Devontae Smith both should be great picks if their quarterback play is there. I'm in love with this Kellen Moore offense. We'll just see if they use Devontae Smith like they used CD last year, or if A.J. Brown will get that role. It seems like Devontae Smith's more likely to go into the slot than A.J. Brown, which was where they liked utilizing CD last year, so maybe it is a bit of both. But I do love the pick. George Kittle is a good tight end. He is going to bust some weeks, and you just have to live with that. But on the weeks he does pop off, he can get you 15 plus, 20 plus, 30 points, and literally win you a week. So he is frustrating. I think if Ethan holds on to him, he will reap the benefits of it, but he is a hard player to hold on to. Aaron Jones. I don't love Aaron Jones. He shouldn't have much touchdown upside. He will get a bunch of attempts, or he should at least. But he is over the edge in terms of running back age. I don't expect him to catch as many balls as he did in Green Bay last year. He normally misses 3 or 4 games a year. Ty Chandler looked decent last year. He won't have many opportunities for touchdowns. So as a second running back, I do not love this pick. Maybe he could be a emergency start in the flex in some situations, but not my favorite pick. Jaden Reed also, I think this is a decent value on him. We'll see if Christian Watson stays healthy. We'll see how much of an impact Dontavian Wicks has in this offense. But Jaden Reed was the go-to first read in this offense last year, and I don't expect that to change too much. He was also the primary red zone threat towards the latter half of the year when Jordan Love was really popping off. So I think if they can, build on last year, I think this is a great pick. And although he may not be a weekly starter, you can put him in there any week and he will give you solid production. Jaylen Warren, I always love the Jaylen Warren pick. I personally think he's better than Najee. Pittsburgh coaching doesn't agree with me, but they have Arthur Smith there, so he's going to use the shit out of both of them. Both of them will be RB 20 to 25 on a weekly basis. You just got to hope you pick him the week he decides to pop off. Hollywood Brown is starting injured, I believe. He could be a good threat for this Patrick Mahomes-led offense. Yeah, still not practicing. As he did have a really good season with Lamar one year. I just think Mahomes is going to spread the ball out a bunch. And I think at best, Hollywood Brown will be the third target on this offense, which normally has not been conducive for the Chiefs. Jerome Ford will be starting at least the first 4 weeks. I think personally he will be starting longer for the Cleveland Browns in what should be a very run-heavy offense. I think this is a great contender to be starting for Ethan week 1. We'll see if he feels the same. Then we have D-Hop, who's also injured. Starting with 2 injured wide receivers, not the best idea, but these guys are pretty low down on his roster and shouldn't need to be started in the first few weeks. But D-Hop's floor should be there with Will Levis. Will Levis is projected to get around 3,500 passing yards, so the yard should be there. It's just whether we get the touchdowns. And then Khalil Shakir, not a bad pick, should be one of the guys Allen focuses on. He does get the stack in case he does become that floor PPR play. Ethan's team, his receivers after Tyreek, I don't love. I do like Neighbors and Smith, and they will be regular starters. But I think that 5th flex spot, or that 5th starter spot, the 3rd flex spot, will be a struggle for him to start. I think these 4 guys are starting every week, so he'll have to decide between Aaron Jones, Jaden Reed, Jaylen Warren, Jerome Ford. Not a decision I want to make, but all in all, good team. We'll give him a let's give you a 7.5, Ethan. I like the team. All right, moving on to Brenner. All right, obviously this is going to be a little bit biased because I am doing this, but I do also kind of hate my team. So we'll see. I don't know what ranking I'm giving it, but we'll see. I love Breece Hall, obviously. I reached for him in the 3rd. I think he had like 2 goal line carries last year and was still the RB4. I think he's going to get peppered with targets. I think he'll have the most targets in this offense aside from Garrett Wilson, probably. Braylon Allen shouldn't have too much of an impact on his overall running back touches. I think the offense will be better. I think the offensive line will be better. And I think, honestly, RB1 overall is the ceiling for Breece Hall, even if McCaffrey stays healthy, just because there's so many more weapons on the San Fran offense. But we'll see. And I think, at worst, RB2 is the ceiling for him if you really think McCaffrey is that guy. We'll go with Achane in the 2nd. Like I said, very boomer bust play. I did end up getting Jalen Wright at the end of the draft to kind of handcuff him. I think both of them will be playing alongside Mostert. I think Mostert will be getting more consistent carries, whereas Achane and Jalen Wright will probably be getting mixed in as a change of pace back. Achane's been reported getting a lot of catches in the preseason and in training camp due to Jalen Waddle being a bit banged up, and also lining up in 5 receiver sets. So I do love that. Touchdown upside. I mean, he's the most efficient touchdown runner in the history of the NFL based off last year. Can he continue that at that efficiency? Probably not. But if he's close to it, I think we have a great pick here. Marvin Harrison Jr., again, rookie. We're really hoping for that 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, which probably puts him around wide receiver 15, 20 range. I think that'll be great. I think his real upside comes from the volume that he will be getting. I mean, he could have 150 plus targets this year. And if he turns that into 100, 110, 120 catches, then he will be a great pick here. Brandon Ayuk, again, big upside play. He's currently not training right now. We don't even know what fucking team he's going to be on. This could end up being a terrible pick. He slid to me a good bit. I honestly think he's a great player. I don't know if he is deserving of the top 7, top 8 contract, whatever he wants, but I think he's a great player. Most percentage of his passes last year, or of his catches last year, ended up as a first down or touchdown more than any other receiver. And I think it was like fucking 50% or something, if not more. So high average depth of target, high touchdown upside if he were to stay with the Niners. But we will see. James Cook, like I said, big floor play, needs to get those touchdowns up. These 5 are going to be my starting running back, receiver, and flexes every week. And then we start to get into our depth pieces. Terry McLaurin, we love Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin's pretty consistently a top 30 receiver, and this is the best quarterback he's ever had. This and Cliff Kingsbury should put him in that, wide receiver 2, late wide receiver 2, maybe early wide receiver 3 range. Tank Dell, I think last year he was one of the best players in fantasy before he got injured. Kind of a freak injury. So not necessarily indicative of another injury to come in the following year, but you never know, as he did have to rehab it for a while. CJ Stroud loves him. I think he is the best Texan player with the ball in his hands. So he will get a lot of design plays at or near the line of scrimmage and just let him fucking go. He should also get some deep targets as well, as he does have incredible speed. He's also a pretty versatile pick. Very boomer bust, but I think in the 7th round, not terrible value for him. I'll just have to find the right weeks to play him. Same with Calvin Ridley here. I think he's going to get a strong start with D-Hop being out. I do think Will Levis is going to fucking chunk the ball, kind of in line with that Jameis 30 and 30 season. Maybe not quite. Maybe it's 25 and 20, 25 and 25, whatever. But he did like to throw the ball last year. He had a couple really good games. So if he does take that step forward, we should see some real volume for Calvin Ridley here and hopefully some touchdowns. We did get Kyler to accompany with Marvin Harrison. I think this is a good stack, especially getting Kyler this late in the 9th. He was as the 9th quarterback taken. I think this is great value for him. I was getting some shit because he's Matthew Berry's ride or die, but I've been seeing him in ESPN drafts and underdog drafts going as the 6th, 7th, even 5th quarterback off the board. So I do not hate this value here. Great rushing upside, and should be throwing the ball a ton in this offense as well. Ladd McConkey, honestly, I kind of fucking hated everybody here. I think, Herbert's got to throw the ball to somebody. It will be a rush-heavy offense, but he's got to throw it to somebody, and Ladd McConkey does have the opportunity to be that guy. Josh Palmer has been there 4 or 5 years, does have the most rapport with the team, but this rookie upside could come in and be the number 1 target. We did take Njoku at the 11. I think this is a stinky pick. He was kind of just the best tight end available. He really popped off at the end of last year, but that was with Joe Flacco. Hopefully, I think he's a great athlete. Hopefully he can continue what he did last year, but we'll see. This is kind of a punt, and I think one of the better options to take if you do punt at tight end. Next, we have Chuba. Jonathan Brooks is hurt on IR. Will miss the first 4 games of the year. I think Chuba, they love Chuba in Carolina. I think he will still get touches even when Jonathan Brooks is back. And Jonathan Brooks had I think it's an ACL injury. It is a major injury that he got in college last year. So I would not expect him to come back and be 100%, even when he does return from IR. And then Jalen Wright, pure handcuff. Honestly, I really like my depth. I think, all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think all of these 8 guys I can start any given week and they'll give me decent numbers. I think if Kyler can show up and be a top 6 or 7 quarterback, I think I have a really good team built around him. Um, I'll probably have to figure out tight end at some point during the year, whether that's by trade or picking up a Hawkinson or a Goddard or somebody that will outperform Njoku. I think that will need to happen. I'm honestly going to give my team. I'll give my team a 5. I think it has potential to be a 9 or a 10 if Brees Hall and Achan and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler and Calvin all cook as I think they will. But again, very, very volatile, which is normally not what you want for fantasy football. But I decided this year I'm fucking going for it. All right, we're 40 minutes in. I'm going to try and zoom through this a little bit faster. Strat taking Lamb, Henry, and Devontae with his first 3 picks. I think these are 3 great picks. We'll see how Devontae pans out with a new quarterback and new offense. But Henry, Lamb, and Adams are all good volume plays and high upside plays. At least the first 2 are high upside plays. He does get McBride and Mahomes, solidifying his quarterback and tight end position with the 4th and 5th round. Perhaps might leave him a bit shallow in his flexes, but locked up 2 guys. Mahomes kind of sucked last year, towards the end of last year. He didn't have anybody to really throw the ball to. And I think he was like quarterback 18 the last 7 or 8 weeks. So spending this draft capital on a quarterback and him not working out can be very detrimental to your team. But at the end of the year, he is Mahomes. So end of the day, he is Mahomes. So we'll see. He should be a top 5 quarterback. Kirk, I actually really liked Kirk. And then I looked into his numbers from last year and the year before, and they're not pretty. Not going to get you more than 20 points a week. Just kind of a safety blanket. So he'll be a decent starter. I kind of don't hate the pick for how his team's constructed. Rome Odunze, I really don't know what to think on Rome. He is a rookie going in the 7th round, might be the 3rd best receiver on his offense. And we'll see. Caleb Williams is supposed to be the fucking GOAT. We'll see how that works out. He did take Kyle Pitts to go with Trey McBride. I'm never a fan of taking Kyle Pitts ever at any point in the draft, especially as your second tight end. But you know what? It might just work out with Kirk in this offense. So I might be reaching out to him for Trey McBride at some point. Zach Moss should be the RB1 in Cincy. We'll see with Chase Brown. Their offensive coordinator did leave. So offensive coordinator went to Tennessee, so they might not be throwing the ball as much as they have previously, especially to preserve the health of people that were injured last year. T. Higgins, who they did decide to keep on the team, and Joe Burrow, who was also injured 2 of the last 3 years, I believe. So try and keep them healthy. Then we have Christian Watson. If he's healthy, he will be a good pick. Big if. Adonai Mitchell fucking might as well throw away that pick in the 11th round, but it's the 11th round, whatever. Dobbins, he looked okay last year when he came back, but did have that big injury, so who really knows? I actually really love Josh Palmer. I think he's guaranteed to return his value at this pick here. Now, how much is he going to return on that value? I don't know, but I do think he is a guarantee to return here as probably the wide receiver 40 or 50 off the board. Strat will give you the double tight ends kind of sketch. I think your flex will be kind of sketch given Zach Moss, Christian Watson, Christian Kirk, Rome Odunze. But you did lock up tight end. That's for damn sure. And I love your first 2 picks. So we'll go 7 on the Stratburger. I do think he has a pretty good team. He needs to figure out his flex, and he'll be fine. Moving on to Blaine. Blaine took Jamar and Gibbs. I think these are good picks, other than the fact that neither of them are actively practicing. So he could get off to a slow start. Drake London fell a little bit in terms of ADP, but I think this is right where he should be taken. Should be primed for a top 20 wide receiver season with Kirk. Can he break into that top 10? We'll see. Cooper Kupp, I think, will lead the team in targets and red zone targets. Probably catches as well. I think him and Puka will both perform very well this year, and you're getting Kupp at a discount. Kenneth Walker, I think he's a great player. We'll see how much Charbonnet's used. This should be a pass-happy offense. So if they are willing to if they are able to get into the red zone and convert into touchdowns, he should have that high touchdown upside. But he can also break a run from anywhere and turn a 6-yard run into a 30-yard touchdown. So not surprised. Zay Flowers should have decent volume. His splits weren't great when Mark Andrews was there versus not there last year, but he was a rookie. This should be a run heavy team with Derrick Henry, too. So I think this is a bit high to take him, although he does have the potential to have a very high floor. CJ Stroud, I think this is a good pick for around where he's going. He will have weapons. It's just how much are they going to need him to throw the ball? That I'm not sure. If he throws the ball 30 to 35 times a game, you're going to have a great quarterback. But if they start shitting on teams and let Joe Mixon run the ball out, he might not get all the touchdowns that he needs, and certainly might not have the yardage that he needs on a game-to-game basis. Xavier Worthy, he's the fastest name here, probably except for maybe Tyreek, but according to his 40 time, he is. Always dangerous in a Mahomes-led offense. We'll see how that pans out, although there are a lot of names there. Deontay Johnson, my fucking boy. Love Deontay Johnson. I think Bryce Young and Dave Canales will take a step up this year. I think Deontay Johnson is a great first read target, will get a bunch of catches. I feel like him and Thielen he's kind of going to be in the Thielen role from last year, but Thielen's still there, so I really don't fucking know. I do like this pick. I think it's a good floor play. He'll be able to start most weeks and you won't hate yourself. Jake Ferguson, somebody's got to catch the ball in Dallas. Cortland Sutton, I just hate all Broncos, so sorry. Chase Brown, we'll see if he ends up playing. And then Aaron Rodgers, I literally have no idea why he took it. Probably bait for Britain. But, Blaine, I actually don't love this team. I'm not going to say I like my team more, but I'd be shocked if Stroud was a top 5 quarterback. I'd be shocked if Ferguson was a top 5 tight end. You have two guys that I think will probably start slow, although Jamar has the capability of being the best player on any given week. And then I do think your flexes should be fine with Kupp, Walker, Deontay, Zay. You'll be able to fill that last slot. I'm going to go 6. Dylan. All right, I got to speed this shit up. Dylan Bijan, great pick. Great volume, should be a beast. Puka, I think he's going to be very similar to Kupp, maybe a little highly drafted, but will be a great weekly starter. Olave, like I said earlier, very low floor, not high upside. Weekly starter, he's going to frustrate you a little bit. You just got to deal with it. Laporta, I'm not sure that he replicates what he did last year. I think this offense will be very good. They play a lot of games inside. So if there is potential for Sam Laporta, sky's the limit, but I think maybe he takes a step back last year or compared to last year. Lamar Jackson, I think this is a great pick. We'll see how many rushing touchdowns he gets. I think his rushing yardage will be there similar to the previous year. So he'll probably be around 700-800 yards. But he does have 2 MVPs. We'll just see how those touchdown numbers come and if he can get those passing touchdowns. James Conner, great. I guess RB2 for this team. Should be fine. He'll fill out one of those flex spots every single week. Ramondre, he plays for the Patriots. I think he's personally a good player, but for fantasy, I'm just not too sure. Chris Godwin, second best receiver on his team. Don't love the pick, but he'll be a decent starter if you need him. Javonte Williams, I don't love the pick. Like I said, I don't love the Broncos. We'll see how that backfield plays out. He certainly could be the lead in this offense. Where Sean Payton loves checking it down to the running back. So he could be a really great pick by the end of the year, but not my favorite. Brian Robinson, I think good floor play, should be better than fucking Austin Eckler, but we'll see. Devin Singletary, I think this is actually great value on Devin Singletary at 11th round. He's going to get volume. If Neighbors can help this offense move and the defense can help them get good field position, I think he should have enough touchdowns to be viable weekly. Jameson Williams is a fucking bum. Taysom Hill, he's going to be off your team before you start him, or you're going to start him when he's going to put up 3 points. Dylan, I kind of don't like your team either, Dylan. We'll go 5. I know that's a bit harsh, and it probably shouldn't be below my team, but I just don't like it. Now, I'm me, the smartest guy in fantasy, so what I say matters. All right, on to William. Jefferson, Etienne, Samuel, I think 3 great first-round picks. Samuel, week to week basis might hurt you, but he's capable of popping off any given week. Waddle not practicing, but I think he should be fine in the offense. Joe Mixon, great volume, inefficient. I think these five players will start for William every single week, given anything but injury and bye weeks. Kincaid, I really like the Kincaid pick here in the sixth. Should be a top five tight end, and his ceiling's pretty high with Josh Allen. Keenan Allen, I think he'll be the first read for a rookie. Maybe not a great ceiling play, but will be consistent. Mostert in the eighth, I do really like this pick. There's a chance he's top 3-4 in touchdowns this year at the running back position just because of that offense. He does have injury issues, as do all of the Dolphins running backs, but him, even when he was on the Niners. So we'll see how that works out. JSN, I think this is a great pick. I think he is one of those second-year breakouts that we hear about. I think this is the year for him. I think he overtakes Lockett and is one of the top wide receivers this season. Caleb Williams and Tua at quarterback. I think you are going to struggle to decide which one to start each week, but I do think they're both great options there for punting the quarterback position and going late. Tajay Spears, I also really like. I really like Williams' team. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good, but I do really like it. William, I feel like normally you draft pretty mid teams. I think this year you did a really good job. I think you maybe need another upside player or two if JSN or Tajay doesn't work out for you, or Mostert, but I think you have a great foundation. I think your tight end position secured. If you can get the quarterback situation figured out and know which one you're starting every week, I think you'll be a force to be reckoned with. We'll go 8 for William. All right, Jordy, I'm sorry. I'm giving your team like a 4, right? I think your starting lineup is really good. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Mike Evans are 3 fantastic picks in the first 3 rounds. If Saquon can stay healthy, you got a top 10 running back. Amon-Ra's a top 5 receiver, probably until he dies. So I think those are all great picks, and they are going to be the foundations of your lineup. Unfortunately, you do have Rachaad White to go with Mike Evans, so that limits your upside week to week. I don't think that it's going to be often that both of them score a touchdown. And if it does, they'll probably each only score 1. You won't have 3 touchdowns between the two of them. Whereas with some of these other people, Debo and Waddle, you could easily have 4 touchdowns between the two of them. DJ Moore and Metcalf, you could have 4 touchdowns, but 3 touchdowns between the two of them. Same with Walker and Cup. It just kind of depends where you're at here. I just think the upside's a little bit capped. I do like Kamara as a floor play. I do think T. Higgins does fine this year if he can stay healthy. We'll see. The real reason I like your team, Jordy, is you have fucking 3 Cowboys, you have 2 Bucks, and you have 2 Raiders. I think that's a bit ridiculous and ruins your upside on a week-to-week basis. I think over the course of the season, you'll be fine. Brock Bowers, we'll see how that works out. But you've spent a first-round pick on Michael Mayer the year before. Y'all should run a lot of 2 tight end sets, so I think maybe the work will be split between them. A-Rich, I think, is decent value. Dak, I think, is decent value. I think all of these fucking guys you drafted basically below Brock Bowers are scrubs, except maybe Dak. And then I think Tyler Algier, honestly, could be the pick of the draft. Honestly, you're just using a roster spot on what could potentially be a top 5-10 running back by week 4 or 5. So, Jordy, I'm giving you a 4. I'm sorry to be drinking the haterade. I just think your team composition is not great with the 2 quarterbacks. Excuse me. 3 players on 1 team, and then 2 players from 2 teams. Not great. So we'll go 4. Jeffrey, AJ Brown, JT, Nico Collins as your foundation. I don't hate it. I think a bit volatile, for 3 picks. JT might get some touchdowns vultured. AJ Brown's known to have stinker weeks and actually was pretty bad towards the end of last year. And then Nico will also be competing for targets. So Jeffrey does have the possibility to collapse some weeks. But I do think these are 3 good players, and if all things go right, he can absolutely shit on anybody any given week, especially with this Hurt stack and Mandrews. Mandrews should be a great tight end. He has had injury issues the past few seasons, so that is something to look out for. And he is another year older and a little bit of a run heavier offense. Still should be a top 5 tight end, just might not be in contention for tight end 1 or 2 as he's been previously. Amari Cooper, I think he's still one of the best receivers in the NFL. And by that, I mean like top 15, 20. But he has Deshaun Watson throwing to him at this moment. Their running game shouldn't be as good as it was last year. They're going to be a ground and pound defense team. Amari Cooper was also much, 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 much better with not Deshaun Watson on his team. Actually, that's not true. He was kind of fucking ass all of last year. Very, very mid. We'll see if Deshaun Watson can get it together. I don't hate the pick, but having him and Chubb is probably not ideal. Najee, I hate. I'm a Jalen Warren person. They're both kind of the same fucking player. He's going to finish top 25 running back. It's not going to be pretty. Rashee Rice, I love the pick. I think he's the Chiefs wide receiver to have. Getting him in the 8th is a great value. He's been rising a lot in drafts lately, and the ADP just hasn't caught up to him yet. Jordan Addison, I think that's a garbage ass pick. But at this point in the draft, you're just shooting for pure upside. And if Sammy D is him, or people draw a lot of attention, or Jefferson draws a lot of attention from defenders, he should be okay. And then going with a bunch of these late running backs, Chubb, Benson, Brooks. Again, I have my concerns about Brooks and Chubb both having to sit on your roster, although I think you already dropped Brooks as of this morning. And I think Trey Benson's a good pick, given that James Conner is always playing with some kind of injury. Now, he is normally playing, but he is constantly on the injury report. And then Purdy definitely has a possibility for a top 10 quarterback to get him at the end of the draft. Not a terrible pick. Jeffrey, I think your team could be a little volatile on a week-to-week basis. At the end of the year, though, I do think this is a playoff caliber team. I'll give you an 8. And lastly, we have Brennan. We started with Garrett Wilson and Kyron Williams. I think Garrett Wilson is going to get absolutely peppered with targets. Now, I think defenses will also be keying in on him, so he won't get as much yards after catch as some of these other players, but I think that's fine when he's going to get 100, 110 catches this year and should probably get double-digit touchdowns, depending on how this offense looks and how Rodgers looks. Kyron, I think, is a great pick. I'm all in on Kyron this year. I think he is the guy to have, especially if you get Blake Corum later. I think there's no downside to having him at all, and should be a top 10 running back guaranteed. Could possibly be top 5. DJ Moore and DK Metcalf and George Pickens. I did go over these earlier. Don't love DJ Moore in the 3rd round, but I certainly could be wrong on that. I just think there's a lot to go around, and Caleb Williams isn't going to be throwing for 4,000 yards. But we'll see. DK Metcalf, I think, is a great pick. Guaranteed top 20 wide receiver at this spot, with potential to be top 12 in this offense. Should Geno be fine? George Pickens, like I said, boomer bust. I think currently he has him in a starting lineup. I think you're going to have to pick and choose what's the best weeks for him, especially in a tough division with rough quarterback play. And if Ayuk goes there, this could be a really bad pick. But all big ifs, all situation dependent. And George Pickens could certainly be a top 20 wide receiver just off touchdowns and big plays alone. David Montgomery, I think great floor play, great second running back to have if you're getting him in the 6th round. Evan Ingram should be primed for more end zone targets. He was the tight end 2 last year, I believe. Now there were some injuries to people like Kittle and Andrews, but still a great season from him. I think top 5 is certainly possible for Evan Ingram, given the touchdown upside. Let's just hope Ryan Thomas doesn't take too many of those, or hope he does. I don't really care. Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to struggle to pick the right one. I think he's going to start Jordan Love week 1, and we'll play it by ear from there. But his heart is going to be conflicting with his heart on this. And can he make the right decision week to week? I don't know. He did a pretty good job of it last year. We'll see how it works out this year. Keon Coleman, I don't love, honestly. He seemed really excited about the pick. He is a very talented rookie, and Josh Allen's going to have to throw the ball to somebody. I just don't think Keon Coleman really fits into the offense. There have been a bunch of conflicting reports. Early in training camp, it was that he was not able to keep up. Also, this guy's a fucking idiot. I don't know if you've seen any interviews with him, but he is just the dumbest fucking human on the planet, fantasy aside. So we'll see. I think there's a lot of mouths to feed. I think Josh Allen regresses a little bit, being a not top 2 fantasy tight quarterback. So Keon Coleman definitely could have high upside. Not my preferred choice here. Dobbs should be a great floor play. He should be the most targeted player in Green Bay's offense, I want to say. We'll see if Christian Watson can stay healthy, how much that affects his target share, but I think he's pretty locked in for around 17, 20% target share. Should get 6 to 7 catches a game and will kind of be the go-to safety blanket for Jordan Love. Blake Corum, as I mentioned, great pick. And then Brandon Cooks, I think with any of these guys in the last round, they're basically punts. Brandon Cooks was not good last year, but somebody's got to catch balls other than CD in this offense. So I don't hate the punt. Brennan will give you a 7.5. And that's it. I'm not promising I'm going to do an hour one of these every week. Week 1 preview will probably be a little shorter. I will have some different segments. I will have some guests on. But, hey, I think this is a fun way to keep league engagement. You don't have to listen to it all. But I'm bored at work. I got most of my shit done yesterday and had some time before my meeting. So let me know what y'all think.